I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media, and today on the Crypto Coin Show, we have Brad Chase, the head of Liquidity Products at Ripple. Brad, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm very excited to dive into Ripple with you today. In fact, one of my first videos, almost six years ago now, was about Ripple on my YouTube channel, and it was the one that sort of exploded the channel. So I'm very excited to have you guys on the show, and I know so much has happened, and you're working on a lot right now. I would love to start off our conversation together by just hearing a little bit about your background in the space here and what exactly you're focused on at Ripple, and then we'll dive into the latest details.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thanks for having me. It's very cool to have someone who's been aware of us and tracking us over the years. So I guess for your listeners, reminder to Ripple, we're an enterprise crypto company. And if you distill it down, we're really focused on making it simple and efficient to move value using crypto and blockchain. We think they're just world transformative technologies that really, enable finance to be modernized and kind of the same way that the internet developed and made kind of all of commerce amazing. We started about 10 years ago, really focused on payments. We've since broadened to other things like liquidity management, tokenization, and CDBC. Specifically, I focus on our liquidity products, which includes a product called Liquidity Hub that we recently launched that enables these businesses to kind of seamlessly integrate, buy, sell, and hold digital assets as part of operating a crypto-first business.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And it's nice. Yet Ripple continues to expand out into these different areas. I want to dive into the Liquidity Hub a little bit later on. I'd love to start with, we got a high level there and just take it down one more step. Just talk about XRP and the XRPL or the ledger and sort of the function of that. If you could explain that a little bit to the viewers, that would probably help with the context.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Ripple is an enterprise-focused business, and XRP is a decentralized digital asset that runs on a ledger called the XRP ledger. And XRP is really purpose-built for payments in many ways. It's very fast. Transactions settle in 3 to 5 seconds. Extremely low cost. Transaction costs hundredths of a cent, and it's extremely scalable. 1,500 plus transactions per second. Carbon neutral. And so kind of given this, open decentralized blockchain, Ripple builds on top of that. So we go and go find enterprises and understand their business use cases and see where the XRP ledger can solve for them. And again, payments, particularly cross-border global payments, is what we've been working on really most earnestly as a company these past years. And it benefits from having this kind of public infrastructure that's global in nature, decentralized, that anyone can build on, but then it really enables these cross-border use cases and flows, and particularly this payments use case.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And there's some huge advantages of the technology from what I understand versus, the old clunky ways. And I think there's still a lot to be done with actually penetrating that technology into the market. Can you talk a little bit about the current issues that the industry is facing on the liquidity side and how you and your team are working to solve those?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's, again, head of liquidity. That's what I spend my time thinking a lot about at Ripple. So again, as you were noting just in your kind of last comment, it's a new technology. There's a lot to get adoption. One aspect of adoption is not just technology, it's actually liquidity. So that's the ability to transact kind of with immediacy, kind of with great pricing, kind of at the scale that you need to operate your business. So for a cross-border payment, that's having that, facility to go from a fiat currency to a digital asset currency or vice versa. And so, even though we have this massive $130 trillion cross-border payments market that has all these frictions, intermediaries, you can't just turn the switch over and crypto suddenly solved all the problems. You have to build out these liquidity partnerships, these relationships, these connections with the traditional financial systems. And what XRP does uniquely is it can settle so quickly. And so because of that, you might actually need less liquidity because there's less that has to be locked up during these longer settlement periods. And so, as we think about liquidity for our customers and our businesses, as they're finding new ways to kind of send value faster, reduce the amount of funds that they have to lock up, we have to go help them source that liquidity in the crypto markets and the fiat markets. And then as we've done that for payments, now we're seeing that for companies that are leaning into crypto liquidity directly. And that's what prompted us to go work and develop Liquidity Hub. And so maybe if you really zoom out, the way I tend to think of liquidity is it's almost a way to think about interoperability. So if you have all these different tokens, maybe today it's kind of fiat, top cryptos, top stable coins. But if you think about this idea of tokenization, where other aspects of our economy, be it real estate or other different types of assets, you need ways to transfer value between those. And liquidity is that thing that's there that lets you do that kind of transfer of value and really move value in an interoperable way across chains and real world assets.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that, Brad. And you mentioned the market of 130 trillion. It's gigantic, even compared to cryptocurrency market caps of like 1 trillion or less. I feel like a lot of people don't fully understand. Okay, how can we get all of that market into crypto? But at the same time, there's also there's cryptocurrencies, and then there's the ledger technology or distributed technology, and the benefits of integrating that as well. And I feel like people that are these cross-border payment companies that are making large transfers, they don't always necessarily have to have some cryptocurrency that's included in the market cap of what we see as cryptocurrencies right now, right? There's also just the technology and being able to have less intermediaries or lower those fees and make it faster. I feel like that would be a major part of it as well. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. Another way that Ripple thinks about it too is it's you want the pie to be growing, and there's parts of the different types of pairs between assets where crypto is naturally well suited. The types of customers are more interested in adopting it. But there's other areas where crypto can be an enabler directly by being an asset. But yeah, and again, there's even third areas where it's just the technology, where it's not necessarily a cryptocurrency involved, but some of the blockchain technology. And so, given that size, it was so big, it was hard for me to even say 130 trillion properly. All of these things need to be on the table to help solve the problems, and it's going to be a mix of these pure technology all the way down to pure crypto that are part of the solution. And I guess where we come in and the way we think about it today is, given it's a new technology, it's even more true that it's a mix at the beginning, because you're starting with things that didn't exist before in terms of blockchain a decade ago, really kind of at the scale that we're at today. And so part of an enterprise like us is kind of smoothing out those challenges of needing to understand as a business and become an expert in how you mix these technologies, where we can take our experience and kind of consolidate that into a product like Liquidity Hub or cross-border payments product that lets enterprises get into the space and learn in a way where they don't have to be an expert of the tech day one.
And with so many intermediaries and steps, in the traditional cross-border payments infrastructure, I feel like it's not just as easy as a flip of a switch for some of these major companies that are moving trillions of dollars to just be like, okay, let's just use crypto and ledger, tomorrow. I feel like there's some onboarding steps to go through. And so how is that process going for the majority of the market?
Yeah, it's going well in the sense that 10 years ago when we started, nobody knew, even the listeners probably weren't around in this space a decade ago. And we're now, obviously, where crypto's at least in the mainstream in the sense that it's in the news, people have a sense of what it is. So that education is happening. We're certainly seeing a lot of enterprises and traditional institutional players leaning in, starting to actually potentially have crypto on their balance sheet, starting to use them in their flows. Hence, again, Liquidity Hub. But I think it's still a place where crypto is still largely, built for the experts, the people that really know how to manage a wallet or kind of how to manage things. And so, as much as, enterprises are toying and learning, there's still the tail of the early adopters, those kind of, people willing to blaze a path and kind of, tech forward firms. They're the ones that are in playing. It's that next segment of people that are more established, to your point, that it's a little bit higher bar to adopt the new tech. They're now curious and learning. But, again, same way that none of these people were around 10 years ago. Now we've got a fraction that are. We're going to continue to see that expand and that adoption.
Mm-hmm. And I could imagine you could see clear incentives that, the distributed ledgers should have less intermediaries. They're going to be faster. I'm sure that the transaction costs would be lower. I know transferring even millions of dollars in traditional cross-border payments, it's like percentages here and there. And all of a sudden, you're probably saving hundreds of thousands of dollars if you move to a cryptocurrency based ledger. It's just a matter of, how do we get everybody else on board and do it in a way that it makes it more efficient, so that everyone's on the same page.
Yep, absolutely. I think one anecdote you'll indulge me is I remember, so I've been at Ripple for about 7 years, and I remember when our cross-border payments product called On-Demand Liquidity first launched. Won't name the customer, but one of the early customers, we were doing first integration tests and the demos, and by bridging through XRP, we sent a cross-border payment that settled in under a minute, and they didn't believe it. It's they had to go check, the banking accounts externally or things, and it's just mind blowing for an institutional player to just have that happen, and which is fantastic to be part of that moment. But that's the type of transformation. It's just a new way of thinking, kind of fundamentally for a lot of players in the space.
That's amazing. And with the liquidity management, how does your team prepare for, if somebody comes in and says, okay, we want to transfer $1 trillion, how do you prepare the liquidity, or do you have mechanisms like AI or machine learning to determine, where to have the assets and how to be ready to help these large players?
Yeah, definitely. So, somebody's not yet calling us up for that $1 trillion. Hopefully one day we're there, but it's very much that. So the way we use AI and machine learning is to really understand customer demand, what are their businesses trying to do, and look at those time series and signals, and then be able to forecast that. And then be able to then, as you just said, have these planning systems that go, make sure there's sufficient liquidity in the places they need to be to fulfill that demand when it happens. Even before that $1 trillion scale, if you're talking about hundreds of customers, billions of dollars, you can't manage that manually, and traditional finance doesn't manage that manually. And so, we need to build systems, machine learning and automation to do that on behalf of our customers. And maybe, the one aspect of crypto that comes in is again, the speed factor. But also there's a richness of data, and that, crypto is largely, public data in terms of the raw blockchain. And so there's new techniques and new methodologies that we're developing to make those predictions better, make the speed with which we can respond to changes in those predictions better. But that's definitely a key part of how this industry can scale, and certainly how our products will scale.
And can you explain a little bit more on the Liquidity Hub and exactly what that program is?
Yeah. So again, it kind of came out of our experience first focusing on this cross-border payments case. It was kind of, in some ways, it was, and is, maybe still is, but was the first real enterprise application of crypto. And so to do that, we had to go figure out how to build a crypto first business. We had to, integrate with traditional, non-traditional systems, figure out how to manage that liquidity, make it available, build out, trading and execution systems to be able to power that cross-border payment. And so kind of as that went on, and as, started to talk about customers about adjacent use cases and needs, we started to realize, hey, the same technology that we had to develop ourselves to build a crypto first business, there are other companies now that want to go build a crypto first business. They shouldn't have to reinvent that wheel themselves. It's largely undifferentiated, very hard and important work, but it's not really maybe as, a crypto PSP that they really need to go solve, or an NFT marketplace. You'd rather have somebody else that can kind of solve that ability to access liquidity and manage crypto liquidity and manage your crypto assets, and you go focus on that NFT experience that you're trying to build for your customers. And so, what we did kind of over that kind of past year and change, we stepped back to figure out how do we pull out that technology, repackage it so it's really just that simple experience for a customer. They can integrate with an API, they can get quotes to be able to buy or sell the crypto, and then kind of withdraw and manage it for their business flows. So it's been an exciting journey that I've been part of at Ripple, and just fantastic that, we're seeing the need in the market in a way that we had to live a couple of years before, so that we can bring that experience and expertise for our enterprise customers.
Very cool, Brad. And being a cross-border payment solution, we'll be able to transcend all borders eventually. But I'm guessing that you and your team sort of focused on some first geographic regions that were ripe for adoption or for innovation. Where's sort of the main focus is right now with the recent launch of the Liquidity Hub?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely that Internet of Value vision is where we're heading, where value is moving around the world instantaneously. Where we've gone with Liquidity Hub, so we started in the US, where we initially got the licensing to offer the product. And we most recently excited to share the news. I think we just announced publicly this month that we're bringing it to Brazil and Australia. Why those regions? That's where we got a lot of partners and existing business for our cross-border payments product. So knew enough about those countries and companies. We also find those regions are very crypto forward. A lot of consumers in those regions are using it. So then enterprises are looking how to service them as well. But at the same time, maybe their kind of localized crypto exchanges, providers, industry are not as sophisticated as other parts of the world. So if you're a business in Australia today, you've got a bit of a patchwork to put together how you manage your crypto assets across multiple different providers. Again, coming back to motivation for Liquidity Hub, that's work that you don't really want to do if your goal is to go build an NFT marketplace or to go build some other application that requires crypto. And so that's why we brought to market in those places, seeing some great opportunities and traction there, and looking to continue to go around the globe ahead of us.
Very cool. And speaking of those sort of smaller companies and commerce products, I would hope eventually everyone should be able to take advantage of this kind of technology, and hopefully all e-commerce stores and companies should be able to do exactly have the same benefits that these major cross-border people are utilizing, with the ledgers and almost no cost and instant finality. Do you think that's something that will be achievable in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, it comes from consumers needing that and wanting that and seeing kind of the efficiencies for their own lives. But then it's also, I guess it's kind of this two-tier thing in my mind, which is maybe the cool thing about crypto. So like consumers, are using crypto, they want it, they're going to want to use it. And so brands that serve them, companies that serve them will want to be there, right? They want to be able to meet the customers where they need. In fact, this generation of digitally first consumers grew up using the internet, grew up using all these payment technologies. It's natural that they'll adopt digital currencies. It's just part of their digital experience, that their life is entirely has digital aspects woven in. But the second tier that's interesting is the one that you hit on a little bit ago too, where even if you don't really think about crypto as the main part of how you run, say, an e-commerce business, the infrastructure costs below the surface are cheaper using these kind of, for lack of a better word, like shared public crypto infrastructure that these ledgers give you. And so if you just want to be more competitive, efficient, and reduce costs and scale, you're going to need to invest at some level of this technology in your stack over time. So I kind of view it in the same way that you don't really ask if a company's an internet company anymore. Like, yeah, everybody, any business involves being on the internet to some degree. I think the same transition will happen. I don't know how quickly, but over time with crypto, where it's not going to be, are you a crypto company anymore? No, part of my business strategy, part of how I offer my business will have some aspect of digital asset technology, blockchain, or crypto.
It's a great analogy, Brad. And what do you think could be some of the catalysts to get to that next stage of adoption? Obviously the Liquidity Hub is helping with enterprises, and then hopefully that trickles down to smaller companies. Because I feel like a lot of these companies, they're probably, they're not focused on the volatility of crypto. They're probably going to want to use stable coins for the most part for transferring or doing business. And so therefore, the price of crypto assets might not necessarily encourage them to increase business in that area. Say the Bitcoin price rises, more people aren't going to necessarily adopt e-commerce with ledger technology because of that. But there must be some other catalysts in the market, maybe just the length of time that the technology's been around and the trust of it, that eventually more businesses will jump on, or maybe some spike from some kind of regulation or innovation.
Yeah, definitely that mix of items. I'd say, continued regulatory clarity. It's a lot easier for builders to build when they know the rules of the road and they can do it well. I think the other aspect that I think about volatility especially is like use cases really are what drive success. And so again, in the same way that you don't think of yourself as an internet company, but you just, it's what did that technology do for you? What problem were you solving for your customers or your end users? Blockchain and crypto has to do the same thing. So we think payments and cross-border payments is a case where this is a use case we're solving. This is a thing that is people want to do, but it's really hard to do with a whatever, the technology today, the infrastructure that we have today. And so this is a manifestly better experience. And I think as, the industry continues to define these use cases, maybe it's something around identity that's a lot easier to manage now in a way that it wasn't before. As you have more and more of these, then there will be the mix of the stable coins, the pure cryptos, the real world assets that are tokenized. But they'll be driven by use cases. And as you get more use cases, then I believe, we'll find out that a lot of that volatility will start to go away because there'll be this more regularity. There'll be better understanding of what these assets are used for. And it'll just kind of make it more of a consistent experience. But again, always start from that customer, that problem that we're solving. And I think all those things work out over time.
Great point, Brad. And with the Liquidity Hub, as you continue to grow it out, what are the next steps for adoption? Is it sticking to those areas and onboarding new enterprises or new geographic regions or something else?
Yeah, a mix of those things. So definitely looking to continue to bring it to new markets, new customer segments. We're definitely focused on this tip of the spear of those crypto fintechs, very kind of forward-looking firms that are really leaning into crypto. We're going to continue give them great features to help seamlessly onboard, operate more quickly. Things like sandboxes or other improved integrations with their back office systems and whatnot. But I think over time the expansion of Liquidity Hub will be kind of segment by segment. So we start with the segments today that we understand their needs quite well. Maybe it's these NFT marketplaces, crypto ATM or crypto merchant. But then other businesses start to adopt crypto. So maybe there's businesses that start to have crypto on their treasury. How do we help them manage that? How do we do that in a simple, seamless manner for them? And so expand kind of more and more features for who we know today, more and more geographies for who we know today, and then get to know more and more customers and solve their challenges in adopting crypto.
Very exciting. And where's the best place to learn more about this recent announcement of the Liquidity Hub into Brazil and Australia and to follow along for the future updates on the roadmap that you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Check out Ripple.com. We have a Ripple Insights type of blog where we do lots of announcements, active on Twitter or X or what you're wanting to call it these days. But definitely Ripple.com is a great starting place to learn more about our products and our services.
Sounds great, Brad. Thank you so much for the insights. All the best with everything at Ripple and the Liquidity Hub moving forward. And let's follow up in the near future.
Awesome. Great to meet you. And thank you for the time today.